Hi, hello everybody. Thank you very much for joining us on the Decarbonization Building by 2050, Japan's efforts and possible contribution toward the building decarbonization. So first of all, I would like to ask His Excellency, Mr. Asao Keiichiro, Minister of the Environment, to open this seminar by his remark.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is, if you say it from the last name, it's Asao Keiichiro. If you say it from the first name, it's Keiichiro Asao. But I'm the Minister of Environment of Japan. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you and thank you for coming. I would also like to express my sincere gratitude to all the speakers and panelists for taking the time out of your busy schedule today. According to, this is the slide that I'm going to talk about. According to the report by the Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction, Global ABC, in 2022, the decarbonization of buildings and construction sector is critical to achieving global climate goals, since it counts for about 37% of global carbon dioxide emissions and 34% of global final energy consumption. That's nearly, more than 1/3 of the both sectors. The International Energy Agency, IEA, reported that total global floor area will grow by 75% in the next 30 years. 75% growth in the next 30 years. Therefore, without sufficient countermeasures, the corresponding increase in energy demand will exceed improvements in energy efficiency. In addition, as a result of economic growth in developing countries, the introduction of air conditioning will also increase energy demand. Thus, energy saving and decarbonization of buildings and the construction sector are urgent issues. With this background, international discussion on this issue has been accelerating, especially since 2023. For example, ministers recommended to advancing targets to reduce buildings emissions across their whole life cycle in line with keeping a limit of 1.5 degree temperature rise within reach at the G7 Climate, Energy and Environment Ministers meeting in Sapporo and the G7 Urban Development Ministers meeting in Takamatsu, Kagawa in 2023. In addition, a platform called Building Breakthrough was launched for the transformation of the building sectors at COP28, and the Declaration du Chaillot was adopted by 64 countries, including Japan, at the Buildings and Climate Global Forum last March. Japan aims to reduce GHG emission by 46% by 2030 compared to 2013 levels to achieve net zero in 2050. GHG emissions in Japan in 2022 saw a 23% decrease compared to 2013 levels. It marked the lowest on record and keeps Japan on track for its reduction target. Japan is one of the countries that has most successfully reduced global greenhouse gas emissions, GHG emissions. Today, we have the opportunity to hear about the forefront of technologies and experiences of leading Japanese companies, Taisei Corporation, Daikin Industries, and Lixil. And distinguished representatives of Global ABC and the European Commission will share their insights and experiences in achieving significant emissions in the sector. Through these presentations, I am hopeful that we will identify new pathways to move forward. I will conclude my remarks with my wish that this discussion at today's seminar serves to spur actions toward decarbonization of buildings and construction sector because it covers more than 1/3 of the carbon dioxide emissions. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Asao, the Minister of the Environment. Thank you very much. Then I would like to ask Mr. Matsuzawa Yutaka, the Vice Minister for Global Environment Affairs, to explain the somehow outline of the Japan's efforts to the building decarbonization. So, Mr. Matsuzawa, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So slide with, okay, thank you. I'd like to briefly talk about Japan's decarbonization policy in housing and building sectors. Before keynote from IEA, followed by panel discussion moderated by the professor from Malaysian Technology University. And for housing and building sector, Japan set net zero level in terms of energy by 2050 and emission reduction target in 2030 for the relevant sectors. And toward these targets and goal, Japan has policy measures both in regulation side and financial support side. Energy efficiency standard will be strengthened to net zero by 2030. Energy efficiency labeling, including solar power generation and heat insulation performance. And together with these regulation measures, Government of Japan provides subsidies for construction of net zero level housing and buildings. Furthermore, for retrofitting existing housing and buildings, subsidies also go to replacing windows with high efficient insulation ones and heat pumps. In 2024, budget volume for these subsidies is about $3.2 billion. Lastly, Government of Japan is dealing with whole life cycle carbon reduction in this sector. Decarbonization in housing and building sector is a long journey, and the government should work with closely the relevant private sectors, real estate market, and consumers or customers. I'd stop here and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matsuzawa, for the outline of the seminar. So now I would like to move to the photo session with the ministers. So the for speakers, could you come up to the front? Okay, so this is a hot session. Okay, it's okay. The last one. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the speakers. So could you step down then? Thank you very much. So now we move to the presentation from the IEA. So the Mr. Lucas, so presentation, your floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Sorry. Sorry, I'm just checking for my slides. Is it possible to have my slides on? Yeah, okay, thank you. Oh, sorry, but sorry, I didn't see them here. So I will say next slide. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Luca Lore. I'm the lead for climate policies and carbon markets at the IEA, International Energy Agency, which is an intergovernmental organization of which Japan is a very important member. We're very grateful for the invitation from the government of Japan for this important event today. If we can go to the next slide, please. I would like to talk in the next 10 minutes or so about the importance of the building sectors for reaching the COP28 goals that we collectively agreed at COP28 in Dubai. As the Honorable Minister mentioned before, this is very important because buildings represent over a third of energy consumptions, but also emissions today. So at COP28, the UAE consensus, the COP28 outcomes, gave the energy sector an unprecedented clarity of what needs to happen in the next years for us to keep 1.5 alive. And IEA analysis of understanding what this means in implementation terms finds that implementing full doubling of energy efficiency and also tripling of renewables would allow us to peak emissions and would also by itself close 2/3 of the gap by 2030. So these two measures, doubling of energy efficiency and tripling of renewables, are very, very important. But what we can see is that while for the tripling of renewable energy, we have already many policies that are in place for which reaching that goal is going to be attainable. For doubling of energy efficiency, as you can see on the chart on the left-hand side, is going to be much more challenging. The dark blue bar shows where we are at the moment with the current policies. The light blue bar is where we should be in terms of energy efficiency improvement. So there is quite a lot of work to do. But also, it's quite important to understand, if you look at the chart on the right-hand side, that buildings represent the most important driver for reaching the doubling of energy efficiency by 2030. Next slide, please. But reaching doubling efficiency means different things for different countries, different action for different countries. For advanced economies, this means pushing electrification. For instance, moving towards electric vehicles, but also importantly, heat pumps, because heat pumps are 2 to 5 times more efficient than the alternatives. In other countries, like in sub-Saharan Africa, as you can see, clean cooking will be a very important solution. Again, this is a solution that is also related to buildings. And then other emerging markets and developing economies, instead, they should push more to pass new, more stringent technical standards, such as the efficiency standards for the efficiency of new air conditioners that are sold. So if we go to the next slide, please. Two technologies that are going to be very, very important for us to watch are heat pumps and cooling equipment. These are going to be key for the building sector. So space and water heating account for almost half of global energy use in buildings. And as I was saying, heat pumps are much more efficient than gas boilers, 3 to 5 times. But also the demand for space cooling, as the Honorable Minister was explaining earlier before, has more than doubled in the last 2 decades. And with improving conditions in emerging markets and developing economies, already coupling this with a warming climate, this will lead to a further substantial growth in energy demand. And there are some sensitivities around these two technologies that we can see. For instance, in terms of sales of heat pumps, these have been quite positive in the last few years, especially post-COVID, but then sales have stalled in 2023, and they are doing the same in the first half of 2024, with the exception of China, where heat pump sales have increased of 13%. In Japan and the US, the sales of heat pumps have basically remained stable, whereas in Europe, they have have decreased minus 50%. So it's quite alarming. And this could be explained by the number of factors, for instance, of more favorable fossil fuel prices, higher interest rates, but also policy uncertainties. If we look at the second part of the problem, the rising cooling of demand, we know that the demand post-phase cooling, as we were saying, has more than doubled and more than twice. But this is also because the diffusion of air conditioners has more than doubled since the year 2000, because over 800 million households do have air conditioners today, but these are not equally distributed. So for instance, if we look again at US and Japan, 90% of the households, they do have air conditioning, while in sub-Saharan Africa, where the impacts of climate change are going to be felt, this is less than 5%. So we can expect a huge increase in countries that are across the tropics and on the equator as well. With more frequent occurrences of heat waves and cooling demand, this will increase significantly. And the problem is that this will put a lot of strain on our grids as well. This could, peaking in demand could also mean power outages for certain countries. We can go to the next slide, please. While there are these problems that we see, we also see some progress that has been made. If you look on the chart on the left-hand side, we see the change of policies that have been made that are between September 2023 and September 2024, with the share of emissions that are covered by buildings. And as you can see, there has been not much change. This is relatively positive because many policies have passed prior to 2023 from the COVID. So there is a lot of spending from the COVID and the energy crisis period. So there is a lot of spending on energy efficiency for buildings in particular. But there has been some rollbacks of policies. We've seen increasing of regulations in retrofit activities expanded, for instance, in Europe, or also a continuous energy efficiency spending in the US and in Europe as well, but also more stringent energy efficiency standards for new buildings and appliances, for instance, in China, the US, and Australia, especially for air conditioner standards that have become more stringent in the last 2 years. If we move to the right-hand side, this is, if we take the group of the 20 countries, the G20, we can see that the building sector is actually the subsector in the energy sector that have fared the best in terms of new policies that have been passed to regulate the building sectors compared to the other subsectors in the energy sector. If we move to the next slide, please. And as I was saying, not only buildings are moving faster in terms of regulation, but they're also performing better in terms of energy efficiency improvements. As you can see, the light blue chart is where bar is where the efficiency progress is from 2023. And as you can see, within the energy subsectors, the building sector is the one that is actually progressing more in terms of energy efficiency improvements. But again, this is not enough if we compare it to what we need to be at 2030, which is the white dot. And so buildings, there is still quite a lot to be done. If we go to the next slide, please. This will be my concluding slide. I would like to leave you with 5 messages from the IEA in terms of actions. What needs to happen in terms of buildings for all of us to try to reach those 2030 energy efficiency goals in buildings. The first one is establish buildings energy codes for any new constructions and major renovations in all countries. This is particularly relevant for emerging markets and developing economies, where over 50% of all new buildings today are not covered by energy building codes. The second is an increase of the share of zero carbon ready buildings in new constructions by mainstreaming on-site generations of renewables, but also including new measures to reduce embodied carbon emissions within the materials themselves. The third point is minimum energy performance standards to improve the technical energy efficiency of the equipment that use energy on the construction sites. The fourth one is incentives. We need incentives that are targeted to ensure the affordabilities of retrofits and heat pumps for vulnerable groups. This is particularly relevant for advanced economies. This is very important that we need to advance with the renovation and installation of new technologies, but we need also to support the vulnerable population for that. The last one, it's more or less related to what I was saying before about clean cooking. So we need to provide more access to clean cooking solution and to electricity for all. This is particularly relevant for sub-Saharan Africa, and this is also very important for appliances in buildings. So more clean cooking solutions, especially for sub-Saharan Africa. This will bring a lot of benefits in terms of health, gender, and environment. With that, I thank you very much for your attention. I look forward to the panel.
Thank you very much, Furuka-san, for very informative and presentation. Thank you so much. So now we'd like to move on the panel discussion. So panel discussion is moderated by the Dr. Ho Chin Song from the University Technology Malaysia. Ho Sensei here. And then so all speakers, could you come up to them? Speaker is the Sasaki Midori-san, and then General Manager of the Taisei Corporation, and then Mr. Sawai Katsuyuki, Senior Executive Officer of Daikin Industries, and Mr. John Short, Leader of the Communication Impact Strategies Corporation, and then also Greg Lord, Head of the Cities Unit, Climate Change Division, UNEP, and also Head of the Global ABC. So we are still waiting for the EU participants for the online, but we would gradually start the panel discussions now. So Ho Sensei, floor is yours.
A very good afternoon, esteemed delegates, experts, and guests. Welcome to this important session of COP29, where we will showcasing Japanese ambitious effort to decarbonize its building sector. I think, as we know, the built environment is a significant contributor, as mentioned by the minister, that 37% of the global carbon emission is residential emission worldwide. Japan's approach to building decarbonization is a powerful case study, showing how a country can balance technological innovation, policy frameworks, and economic strategies to reduce emission while fostering sustainable growth. So in today's session, we have here altogether 5 panelists, physical, and 1 EU online. And mainly, we have 3 speakers. That is Ms. Sasaki Minori, GM of Environmental Management from Taisei. And our second speaker will be Mr. Sawai Katsuyuki, Senior Executive Office from Daikin Industries. And Mr. John Short, Leaders of Communication and Impact Strategy from Lixil Corporation. And of course, our keynote speaker, Mr. Luca from the IEA, and Ms. Gunara Ro, the Head of City Units, Climate Change Division from UENP. Okay, without much ado, I would like to invite our first speaker, Ms. Sasaki Minori, to present the Taisei initiative toward decarbonization. Please.
Thank you, Professor Paul, for your kind introduction. I'm Midori Sasaki, and I'm working for Taisei Group's Environmental Strategy Planning and Management. Okay. Okay, yeah. Taisei founded in 1873, and Taisei is one of the major general construction companies in Japan. Its business activities include building construction, civil engineering, real estate development, and engineering, not only in Japan, but also in overseas, mostly in Southeast Asia. Okay. In Taisei Green Target 2050, we set the group's long-term environmental goals and targets for 2050 to achieve carbon neutrality, circular economy, and nature positive. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. As already explained by His Excellency Environment Minister Asao and representative from IEA, decarbonization of building sector is a key to achieve global climate goals. Building sector emission includes not only the CO2 emitting during construction and operation, but also those emitted along with the manufacture of the building materials. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. Towards decarbonization in the building sector, Taisei is now undertaking a zero carbon building construction, which combines decarbonization technologies in each phases of procurement, construction, and operation to create buildings that will achieve net zero emissions throughout their life cycle. Sorry, I got the wrong slide. Okay. This chart shows an image of the cumulative CO2 emissions of a conventional building, zero energy buildings. It's not working. Sorry. Okay. Okay. A zero carbon building and emission of a zero carbon building. As you see, CO2 emissions of a zero carbon building are reduced during the procurement and construction and operation stages, and achieves negative emissions through utilization of renewables and CO2 absorption during the operation stage. Now, I would like to show some examples of technologies, okay, that is used to achieve net zero carbon. In the procurement phases, the reduction of the materials of high CO2 emission materials and use of low carbon and long life building materials and use of zero or negative CO2 materials is the keys. Taisei promotes the use of environmental friendly concrete, recycled aluminum as premier by Lixil, and wood. As for concrete, we developed carbon recycling concrete, which is the total CO2 balance of the concrete becomes negative. So it contains the CO2s in the concrete and uses no cement in it. And also, pages? One more? Yeah, no, please. No, next more, one more. Oh, yeah. Regarding wood, we are conducting various technological developments with the aim of expanding the usage as a structural material and improving its fire resistance. One more. Okay. As for the construction phase, reducing fuels and electricity consumption is the key to reduce CO2s. And we introduce the hybrid and electric heavy machinery in the construction sites and expand the use of alternative fuels and renewable energies. Efforts to reduce emissions at the operational stage include introducing energy-saving equipment, utilization of renewables, and carbon absorption through enhancing greening. Okay. It's so difficult. Okay, so T-light blind is one of the developments. So it can use the natural lightning blinds and save energies for the lightning. So T-Zone Saver is the next generation energy saving automatic environmental control system. And it also combination of the zoning, air conditioning, and controlling lightnings. Okay. T-Green Mulch Solar is a photovoltaic system that can be installed on walls or windows. With this system, solar power generation capacity in urban area will dramatically increase. And you can see the sample at the Taisei's booth in the Japan Pavilion. Okay. So using these technologies and measures, Taisei is currently constructing Japan's first net zero carbon buildings. The building will be completed next year and begin operation. So we are working to decarbonize not only new buildings, but also existing buildings. This example is our branch offices that realized the huge reduction of the energies and CO2 by retrofitting the building itself. So technologies to realize zero carbon building already exist, but various barriers make it difficult to achieve. In order to popularize zero carbon buildings, cooperation and understanding from the various stakeholders is needed, and institutional and financial support from the government is required. I hope this seminar will serve as a catalyst for further progress in decarbonizing building and construction sector. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Sasaki-san from Taisei. I personally have visited Taisei laboratory in Yokohama. It's very impressive work they have done. And I think this will be the future kind of technologies to be used in construction to decarbonize building. I'll now move to the second speaker from Daikin. I would like to invite Mr. Sawai Katsuyuki-san, Senior Executive Officer of Daikin Industry, to present Daikin's technology on heat pumps, the key technology contributing to building decarbonization. Sasaki-san, please.
Thank you very much. May I ask to the administration side, please send slide for your side, okay? Good afternoon, everyone. I am Sawai, Senior Executive Officer in Daikin Industries. I am in charge of sustainability in my companies. I am honored to be invited as a speaker today. So the title of my presentation is that heat pump is the key technology to decarbonizing heating. Let's get it started. Next, please. First of all, I'd like to briefly introduce Daikin Industries. We are a manufacturer specializing in air conditioners and heat pumps, and we celebrated the 100th anniversary this year. We operate globally with more than 80% of our sales and employees in overseas. You can see the right side of the slide. In 2018, we have committed to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. We emit 329 million tons CO2 last year, but almost 80% of which is emitted when our customers use air conditioners. Because air conditioners use electricity, the CO2 emissions associated with the use of equipment are still high due to high emission intensity. However, toward carbon neutrality, we are working to develop and promote higher efficient air conditioners and heat pumps and the proper recovery of refrigerant. Next, please. For decarbonizing the embodied carbon of buildings, energy saving air conditioners and heat pumps are very important. As a beginning of the part, IEA Luca-san already explained. Embodied carbon includes material used during manufacturing. Operational carbon includes emissions from air conditioners, gas boilers, heat pumps. Especially decarbonization of operational carbon is extremely important because this accounts for 60 to 70% of the total life cycle carbon. COP28 announced a transition away from fossil fuels. Heat pumps can play a big role transition from fossil fuels in heating and hot water supply sectors. Next, please. Replacing fossil fuel boiler to heat pumps is an effective measure for reducing GHG emissions. Heat pumps are proven decarbonization technologies and ready for immediate social implementation. You can see the left side of the slide. According to the IEA, heat pumps installed in the 5 years from 2019 to 2023 reduced 50 million tons CO2 emission per year. According to IEA report, quantity of heat pump expected to increase. The roadmap toward 2050 expects heat pumps to reduce 500 million tons per year in 2030. Next point is, you can see the right side of the slide. Comparing the lifetime GHG emissions of gas boilers and heat pumps can reduce GHG emissions significantly. Even in China's electricity, CO2 emission intensity is relatively high. But still, heat pumps can reduce big amount of GHG emissions. As a contribution of heat pumps to decarbonization will become even greater as electricity becomes cleaner. In order to prevent lock-in with fossil fuels, early adoption is really important. Next, please. Variable renewable energy, such as solar and wind power, are expected to rapidly increase due to achieve the 2030 renewable energy tripling target agreed at COP28. At the same time, handling of excess power is a problem in Japan. Therefore, importance of the flexibility of the power grid is increasing. According to the IEA, the building sector and especially heat pumps will be expected to play a major role. The image on the right shows heat pumps in Japan by Daikin. It is possible to use the excess power generated by PV during the day for self-consumption of hot water in the nighttime. In the future, demand response utilizing digital technology and grid resources will be expected to install. Next, please. Heat pumps are proven decarbonization technologies and indispensable for the future. Unfortunately, however, there is a stagnation due to focus such as gas prices, the economy, and politics. Heat pumps need acceleration once again in 4 points. First, setting policy target of NDCs and high-level policy so that manufacturers can step forward to stable future investment of heat pumps. The next point, reducing the price gap between electricity and gas. Price gap of gas and electricity make it difficult to adapt heat pumps. Clean technologies such as heat pumps need to be economically attractive for customers. Third point, public funding to overcome upfront costs. Since the initial cost of heat pumps higher than fossil fuels, boilers, it is necessary to reduce the initial cost burden. In order to reduce burden, the United States has introduced tax credit mechanism by IRA, and Japan also doubled the amount of subsidies compared to the last year. But in EU, such efforts have been slowing down, which is a challenge for the European heat pump market. Finally, rising awareness. There is a misunderstanding that heat pumps are unsuitable for use in cold regions. However, in Northern Europe, the share of heat pump heating is as high as 40 to 60%. The picture shows Daikin's demonstration test site in the coldest region in Japan, where is Hokkaido. As my last comment, as a manufacturer of heat pumps, we will contribute to the decarbonization of the building sector while also working with national and international frameworks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sawai-san from Daikin. I think he have shown that heat pump, the key technology, contribute to building decarbonization, and how Daikin Group's effort towards GHG net zero emissions initiatives. And of course, I think the most important is how the relevance of air conditioning and heat pumps, as well as the whole life carbon of buildings, can be done through Daikin technology. So with that, I'll move to the third speaker. I would like to invite Mr. John Short from Lixel Corporation to talk about decarbonized building material. Yeah, please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. So I'm John Short from Lixel Corporation. If we could go to the next slide, please. So just to give a brief overview of Lixel, for those who may not be familiar, Lixel is a global leader in housing and building materials products. And we're very proud to say that our products touch the lives of over 1 billion people every day. So Lixel is the corporate brand, but you can see some of our, and you may be more familiar with some of our product brands, such as Grohe, Enax, Tostem, American Standard. To the next slide, please. And our purpose at Lixel is to make better homes a reality for everyone, everywhere. So this is the North Star that we work towards as a company. And that includes more sustainable, more environmental homes. And what you can see on the slide here is our environmental strategy. So thinking about the types of products, the work that we do, our focus for our 2050 environmental strategy is around climate change, mitigation and adaptation, water sustainability, and circularity. And we are very pleased to become the first Japanese building products manufacturer to receive the SBT net zero approval for our 2050 goals. So to the next slide, please. So when it comes to decarbonization, we're really looking, taking that kind of comprehensive look at both the embodied carbon and operational carbon. And in the embodied carbon, I'll share a little bit more today. You heard about Premial, the recycled aluminium, but we're really looking at how we can bring in more circular recycled products to reduce embodied carbon. And then an operational side, operational carbon, we're looking through the overall performance of homes. So we heard from the Japanese government today that there are subsidies in Japan around improved insulation for windows and doors. And so making sure that our products meet those requirements for energy efficiency and use and high performance in the homes. And this is a really big focus when we think about in Japan, new housing starts decreasing, but really a big focus on how we can renovate and reform existing housing stock in Japan. So the next slide, please. So the key topic to really share more detail on today is around recycled aluminium. So what you can see on the slide here is looking at the manufacturing process from new aluminium, looking at new aluminium ingots, to then a more recycled process. We can reduce the CO2 emissions there by 97% by that recycle process. So there is, challenges there in terms of the supply chain, getting the resource, the aluminium scrap. And what you can see on the right side of the slide, that slightly older figures from 2019, but the numbers there globally still around 34% of aluminium being recycled, and in Japan around 10%. But the industry looking to get that to around 50-50 by 2050. And this is a really big focus for us. So to the next slide. And I think what you can see here, sorry, on the next slide, please. Could we move? I think we're stuck. Can we move to the next slide? Okay. But just to note that aluminium products are a very important part of our portfolio. Lixo's making using aluminium for products for window sash, for building, kind of commercial buildings, also for housing space and shutters, doors, windows. Yeah. And then also for what we call exterior products, so carports, etc. So this is not only an important part of our portfolio, but then also has been a very large contributor in terms of the CO2 emissions. So really an important area for us to look at how we can reduce those CO2 emissions. And we've been really developing the manufacturing and the technology over the past 25 years to be able to develop those more advanced recycling materials. So on to the next slide. The key product that we have been discussing, would like to share, is what we call Premial. So this is now our new recycled aluminium product. We started with Premial 70, and then now last year introduced what we call Premial 100, which is 100% recycled aluminium, and looking at how we can, we've started in Japan, but then now manufacture that across all of our aluminium manufacturing sites, so including those outside of Japan, but then also looking at that product portfolio and trying to see how we can really expand that to make sure that we can use this material across that full range of aluminium products that I mentioned. So moving to the next slide. So with that, we've set a goal. Oh, sorry, I think we've gone backwards to the next slide, please. We've set a goal. We're currently around about 70, 74, moving to 78%, but it's set a goal internally for Lixol. Our commitment is to reach 100% use of recycled aluminium by fiscal year 2031. So that would be real key development, and looking at our own commitments, but the support that we can provide in the industry and to customers as well. And as I mentioned, we've been developing this product in Japan, but now looking to really see how we can expand the use case and the capabilities for this product outside and globally as well. And then just to the last slide. Just one more slide to briefly mention. So thinking about the circularity and recycling, one other product that we have recently launched in Japan and that we believe has a lot of global potential is a product called Revia. So this is a very unique product. So I have a sample here, but it really taking waste plastic. So we can use any type of waste plastic, because one of the key challenges for recycling plastic is the segmentation. But in the case of Revia and the unique manufacturing process we have, using any type of waste plastic, mixing that with waste wood to create a building material. So this is kind of a substitute for concrete, for example. The first product that we launched was Revia Pave, so for paving materials. So again, using those same principles of circularity, and seeing how we can reduce the carbon footprint across the building materials. So this is something, looking forward. We're also, again, keen to explore opportunities with global partners to see how we can expand the scale for this type of product as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, John, from Lexel Corporation. He has covered how Lexel environmental vision for 2050, and of course how they can contribute to the realization of decarbonized aluminum recycling. I think this is a so-called the next phase of technology whereby we can go for total recycling. Yeah. I think we have completed our first phase of our discussion from 3 speakers. I would like to move to the second part, whereby we will invite discussion or reflection from 2 main discussion. The first one will be Global Alliance Building and Construction, or we call Global ABC. We would like to invite Ms. Garner to present or to pose a question to the panelists. Thank you.
Now it works. Yeah. Thank you so much, and thank you for the really exciting panel. My name is Gulnara Rol. I'm head of the Secretariat of the Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction. This is an alliance of 340 organizations, including 42 countries, but also local governments, private sector, scientists, financial institutions who are working together towards a joint mission, net zero built sector and resilient built environment. And we're extremely grateful for invitation to this meeting, and also for the commitment of the government of Japan, first of all, in the face of the Ministry of the Environment and the Ministry of the Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism, for their leadership in the decarbonization of the building sector at the government level. Japan joined a Global ABC practically at the very beginning. So the Global ABC was established in 2015 during the COP21, and Japan joined in 2016. So we are really grateful for this partnership. Japan also joined a group of kind of elite countries who are working towards building breakthrough, which was launched last year at the COP28. So this is really a very active group of countries and organizations working on very specific topics to make sure that it is a net zero emission and resilient buildings are a new normal by 2030. So we're really appreciative for your leadership and really looking forward to continue working together. Further, I also wanted to mention that Japan also participated in the Global Forum on Buildings and Climate this March in Paris, and also joined Declaration de Chaillot, which was actually endorsed by over 60 countries. It is also a very ambitious document establishing an intergovernmental kind of council, Intergovernmental Council on Building and Climate. We will have an inauguration meeting of the Intergovernmental Council on Building and Climate actually in 2 days on Wednesday. It will be 11 a.m. on Wednesday. So welcome to come and participate. It will be in the room 2 Mukham. I think this is really a very good, very solid foundation for our work. And we are very much welcome the 3 companies, Taisel, Daikin, and Lixil, to join us also in the recent future to the Global ABC, because Global ABC is working very, very actively with the private sector. You know, we are co-chaired by the government of France and the World Business Council on Sustainable Development. So we really have very active collaboration between the public sector and private sector. And private sector, of course, this is a place where there is lots of innovation taking place. And today, panelists really demonstrated that. And it's my pleasure to provide a little bit of the comments on these excellent presentations that we heard today. So we heard first of all on Taisel, and it's a great work going on procurements, construction operations, the commitment to decarbonization through the 3-step approach that you presented, really going from the zero carbon design, construction and operation, really a best practice. And this is what Global ABC is advocating through the whole cycle from the very early stages of planning, building, to the operations and demolition. This is very, very close to our heart. So we really would like to congratulate you on this practice. We are working a lot on the materials and material circularity. So of course, the TE concrete, which is a low and zero carbon cement concrete, incorporating recycled materials and carbon sequestration techniques, is really very important. It really aligns with the global ABC advocacy for circular economy, minimizing waste and reducing the amount of the materials used. And of course, what you mentioned about the reducing the financial barriers and regulatory barriers, it's very much in line with what we're doing as a global ABC on the regulations and economic incentives. Thank you so much for Daikin to speak about the heat pump, and I was really had pleasure to meeting you early as well and hear more about your work on the heat pumps. The drastic reduction of the CO2 emissions thanks to the heat pumps actually demonstrate the very important need to shift to the climate-friendly cooling heating practices and through the use of the technologies. We see the need of it globally, and we're really, very happy to see very concrete examples of it. And this is really increased energy efficiency, but not only, of course, because it also kind of helps to advocate and accelerate renewable energy adoption in buildings to also to reduce reliance on the fossil fuels, which is definitely one of very important topics here at the COP29 in Baku. And definitely the policy directions, regulatory framework, this is also was mentioned, and this is really was very important. And thank you so much to Lixil for also your presentation. It was, I think it was very exciting to hear about your work on the materials, on recycling and decreasing the use of materials. This is definitely very much in line with what we're discussing in terms of the kind of acceleration of the technologies, use of technologies, and to decrease the material use. And great to hear about your partnerships. I was really very excited to hear, and maybe if the moderator allows, just one question to the companies. So as your organizations pursue building decarbonization from a mitigation perspective, could you please maybe elaborate a bit more about how you ensure that your projects also address the critical need for resilience and climate adaptation, especially in the regions which are facing the severe climate impacts? And how Global ABC, I mean, given you are, we are really hoping that you will be joining the community, could help you maybe to promote outreach, because this is what we're discussing a lot at the COP, right? Connecting the mitigation adaptation measures. Thank you.
I think maybe before the panelists answer the question, may I invite the comment from EU, who will be online, and they can answer the question together. Yeah. So I think now we have online discussion or reflection by the name of Mr. Julian Tammy. He's from European Commission under EPBD, or Energy Performance of Building Directive. Yeah.
Yes. Do you hear me
Mr.
well?
Julian, please. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you to inviting me. Sorry for not being with you in Baku. Indeed, I'm working at the European Commission at the service dealing with the Energy Performance of Building Directive, which is a directive that was adopted recently. I hope you see also my screen. I will now share in full screen mode the presentation. Okay, I hope you see. Maybe there is some things floating around, but let me know if it is not the case. I don't see you anymore.
Yeah, yeah, we see. No problem.
Okay, perfect. So just a quick recap of the building stock in EU. It's quite old, I would say. So you see the figures on the screen. What is important to note is that a lot of these buildings, 85% of them were built before 2000 and are not really efficient. And more than 85% of these buildings on the right side of the slide, you see, will still be in place in 2050. And considering that buildings is still one of the largest energy out of legislation these years, on the Fit for 55 package is to reach the
I think,
Hello?
sorry,
Hello,
I
I'm
think
back.
we probably have lost Julian.
Yeah, sorry, I think I missed the connection, but I'm back now.
Julian, I think we couldn't get you, but anyway, thank you so much for joining us. I would like to move on to the next part, whereby I would like to probably ask a few questions. The first question will be to Taisei. What support do you think is necessary for promoting decarbonization of buildings? Saki-san, please.
Okay, so shall I answer your question first or from the global ABC? Which one? Okay, thank you. Okay, so firstly, I will answer your questions. So about you asked my organizing pursue. Okay, the resilience and climate adaptation issues. Okay, well, resilience and safety of the building itself, and ensuring the safety and well-being of the building users are the core value of the buildings. So building safety is guaranteed by the various regulations, including the building code. And as Japan is prone to the natural disasters, Japan's construction companies are proud to be a leader in this field. However, the responding to recent rare weather disasters requires a citywide approach rather than focusing on individual buildings. In Japan, underground waterways are constructed to prevent river and sewage flooding in urban areas. So by disseminating these efforts as good practices, I suppose that global ABC can be a big support for strengthening resilience and decarbonization of the building sectors. And as for your questions, Dr. The barriers to decarbonizing the building include the procurement of the building materials and delays in electrifying construction machineries and lack of incentives for building owners and users. So, because there's no easy to understand indicators for embodied carbons, especially upfront carbon, and users or building owners have no direct benefits. So that increased costs associated with the reductions are difficult to accept for them. So to address these issues, financial support such as subsidiary for procurement and research and development is important, but also the policies to expand the market for low carbon building materials such as green public procurement are also effective, I suppose. And in addition, introduction of an embodied carbon evaluation system and an incentive system like the reduction in fixed asset taxes are also efficient in encouraging building owners and users. Thank you. This is my answer.
All right, thank you very much, Sasaki-san. May I move to the second panelist to answer question by Global ABC? Sawai-san, please.
Yes, as you know well, the climate change is a big issue for human beings. And recently, based upon the IEA report, toward 2050, cooling demand will be tripled. It means for the moment, United States and Japan and Europe, we have air conditioning system, but the Africa or Southeast Asia and the South America, still big demand will come. In order to meet with this demand, of course, from the manufacturer point of view, we can produce a lot of as much as possible, but we have to consider about how to avoid the emission of CO2. In order to do so, big point is the energy efficiency is very, very important things. Then proper efficiency standards are indispensable. Then how to make up this one, not only by the private company, but also the all industries involved. This is very important things. And then my request to Global ABC, of course, as a private sector, I can consider to make up a membership, of course, but also the Global ABC, please involve the industry association. For example, in Japan, we have a air conditioning associate, JRIRA, but also European, they have. United States also, they have a industry association. So you can communicate with this kind of industry association because of we have to make a big wave for climate action, yeah, right? And then this is my request to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sawai-san. I'll invite John to respond to Global ABC's question. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I would echo the comments from my colleagues. I mean, I think in terms of for our particular company and the work that we're doing, in addition to what I mentioned around insulation and those products, a couple of other examples is, looking at where there's really addressing some of the issues around heat during the extreme heat during the summer. We have products such as what we call Lixil style shades, so kind of exterior shades that you can use, which cut the UV by about 83%, so before we get to some other measures that can also really significantly reduce the temperature inside homes and buildings. But, to your question about looking about maybe resiliency and some other areas around those that perhaps are most vulnerable, we've also done programs in Japan partnering with the likes of UNICEF, for example, on the windows and insulations, but where we would contribute a portion of the proceeds from those sales to then addressing climate change issues through UNICEF's programs globally and working together with partners. So I think, in addition to the comments that we've already heard, I think looking at some of those opportunities for collaboration and cooperation is important for us to also consider. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I understand EU online is back. May I invite Daikin to ask question to EU on on your heat pumps issue? Yeah, he's back.
EU member is back. Okay. Yes. As in my presentation already, I explained the European heat pump. This demand rapidly decrease. Already, Lucas-san also explained. But big tendency of heat pumps in Europe become to increase. This is in order to match with increasing of number of increasing of heat pumps. Already, Daikin established a new factory in Poland, but we cannot produce anymore at so far. And then I'd like to ask to EU, what is heat pump tendency from now onward? Roughly, it's okay. Please tell me. Thank you.
No, not possible. Okay, so sorry for that. So I think our online was not good. Maybe they'll communicate online. I think we still have a few minutes. As a moderator, I would like to ask Lexel on the question on beside Taisei, who else has adopted the Premier, and how much interest is there in the market?
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, we're very grateful to hear the example from Taisei earlier. We've also seen actually there's been some developments recently, some news such as other commercial partners. We've seen use of Premier in convenience stores, for example, 7-Eleven in Japan. But also, I think what's also very interesting for us is not just looking at the housing and building industry, but also because of the nature of the product, we have seen interest in this product and perhaps potentially opportunities to collaborate outside. So, for example, even the automotive sector.
Maybe I can.
And as I mentioned, really looking at how we can expand this capability globally as well. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to look at how we can work with partners to scale the use of these products and reduce those emissions globally as well through recycled aluminium.
Thank you, John. I think before we close the session, I would like to invite Mr. Luca to make his final comment based on all this presentation today. Maybe you can just sum up what is your view towards the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again for inviting for the question. I think it was a very rich discussion. We heard from leaders actually in the field. And this, I think it's a testament of the fact that Japan is actually leading the way in buildings decarbonization. This is something that we see also in our modeling going forward. Japan has to lead and is already leading, also comparing to other advanced economies. This is thanks also to the shape of and the size of the market in Japan in terms of retrofits, the fact that it's very well positioned on heat pumps, for instance, and it's really a leader on general technical building solutions, as we heard today. Maybe another reflection that I would like to make is that maybe behavioral change in Japan could also lead by that. There are a lot of small actions that we could also take, and behavioral change could also be important in leading the way in this. But thanks very much for the very rich discussion, and thanks to all the speakers here today.
Thank you so much, Lucas. I think because of time constraint, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our speaker by showing a round of applause. Thank you. And with that, I'll pass the mic to the...
Thank you very much. So the panelists, could you stay just on the stage? And then, so finally, I would like to ask the closing remarks by Mr. Goto Shinichi, Deputy Director General of the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism of Japan. Mr. Goto, floor is yours.
Hello, I'm Goto, same spelling as Goto, Deputy Director General at the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism. On behalf of the organizers, I'd like to offer a new words in closing. First and foremost, I extend my deepest gratitude to all the distinguished speakers for their highly specific and pioneering presentations, as well as the engaging and insightful discussions following the presentations. As Minister Asao emphasized at the opening remarks of our pavilion, the realization of net zero in 2050 requires the decarbonization of buildings. As observed in today's discussion, to decarbonize buildings, not only energy conservation efforts in operational carbon, but also adopting a whole life carbon approach is progressing rapidly. Therefore, Japan is strengthening collaboration with our manufacturing industries of excellent technological capabilities. In order to accelerate the consideration of comprehensive WLC-related systems involving the building material sectors, we have established EPD Promotion Council with related industries and interministerial liaison meeting for building life cycle carbon reduction within the government. There are numerous challenges to overcome in the decarbonization of buildings. Japan is committed to working together with countries facing similar challenges, as well as with countries and international organizations that possess advanced knowledge. Once again, thank you very much for attending here today. And finally, maybe Global IBC's session will be held tomorrow. Okay, I'll also take part in that session. So see you again tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goto. So this is the end of this seminar. Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you very much to panelists and moderator. So please give a big hand to them again. Thank you.